Hey guys, what's going on? First of all, thanks so much for the support on Discord and on Twitch. Huge amount of people in our Discord at the moment. I think it's almost at 700. So we have 700 people who, might be warriors or other classes, contributing to the chat, watching the videos, all this kind of stuff. It's super awesome. I think we're almost at 1300 subs, or we just hit 1300 subs. So, the last 3 days, there's been almost 100 subs a day, which just gives me so much more motivation to keep doing these and putting out the content. I like to get stuff to you guys daily. And for the majority of you, I think you're not too concerned whether it's arena footage or not, because usually the stuff I say isn't necessarily specific to a certain game. It's general playstyle, all this type of stuff. I do have the arena footage games too, but obviously it's very hard for me to make those on the reg every day. Just the extra editing time and all this kind of stuff. So if it does become an issue in the future that people aren't really happy with just me talking and explaining stuff, I am happy to put in the effort and slow down the output of the videos to put more clips and all this kind of stuff in there. But honestly, I think the people who enjoy the content here, generally, they stay around regardless. If you're interested in watching the clips and stuff like that, I always have the Twitch open as well, so you can always check that out and watch some of the VODs there. So today's video, probably one of the biggest things that low rated and I guess even mid rated, you know, I'd say 1500 to 2400 warriors get wrong a lot, right? And this is about uptime. Uptime, having high uptime and DPS as a warrior is absolutely critical to your win condition in pretty much every single arena game. It's the difference between, in my opinion, a warrior who is, inexperienced or new, and a warrior who's played the class for a long time and really understands how to play it. So warriors obviously do huge amounts of damage, not in like burst windows, but consistent, right? We have deep wounds, we have mortal strike, right? And if you're constantly applying Mortal Strike to a single person or multiple people in the team, the healer is under a lot of stress, right? They have to heal, and their heals are doing less heals. If you, the person you're targeting starts to kite you, right, then one, your deep wounds and your mortal strikes might fall off, which one makes it really easy to heal the target that is running. And two, you're not pressing any of your damage buttons into anything at all. So there's big gaps where there's just damage missing. A big thing that I like to say I'm pretty good at, I'm bad at kicks. I think especially against good players, I'm very bad at kicks. I'm average at reflex, but I think one thing I am good at is uptime and rotating my damage to just make sure I'm hitting something all the time, right? Obviously, in some games, I don't do that very well, and it feels very obvious because I'm not mechanically very good. But what I am good at is just noticing, okay, this guy's running away, he's using cooldowns, let's hit the other guy, right? That's I think the only thing that separates me from other warriors, um, and probably the reason why I'm a little bit more higher rated than some of you guys. I'm sure there's people watching this that are very high rated, so um, you are not only good at uptime, but you're good at other things too. And it's one thing for me to work on the mechanical aspect. Um, and the reason why uptime makes such a big difference is that the damage that you're actually losing is much higher than you actually think. So if in a normal game, I've got a couple games here, right? This game on Tiger's Peak, I think I have to switch it to damage done. Damage done. Right, I did 244k, right? This game I did 280k. In this game I did 184k. In this game I died very quickly. It was 47-second game. So this game I did 548k. In this game I did 253k, and you can sort of see my damage tends to be on the higher side. I'm always in the first or second slot, even against really good players, right? Even against good players, I can maintain high damage. And the reason I can get those consistent numbers is because I don't always tunnel a target unless I think that there's probably an 80 or 70 to 80% chance that if I leap and chase, we will actually kill him behind the pillar, or we're going to force so much pressure that the healer has to run past and pop cooldowns on the guy to save him, right? And you can see that in some of my play too. If I can't hit a target, I'll usually just switch to whoever I can hit and maintain damage. So if you're not doing that, let's think about an example. You are chasing a Windwalker. The Windwalker ports away. Let's say you're normally doing about 1.5k DPS. When you're chasing that guy and he's running you around the pillar, every second you're doing that, you're losing 1.5k damage that could be put on another target, right? If you instantly swap to the DK and start putting 1.5k DPS on him while the monk is still low health, by the time your healer tops the monk, the DK is at 20% HP. And then by the time the monk rolls back and the DK rotates out because it's taking too much damage, you can swap onto the monk and pop your burst cooldowns again, right? Which means that the healer is under immense amounts of pressure the entire game, right? He doesn't really get a chance to breathe unless they completely CC you and take you out of the game, which a lot of the times for many classes, because of how hard Warrior is to peel, right? You have Avatar, you have Blade Storm, Reflect, Stormbolt, Kick, Banner, you know, all these different things. It's very hard to get rid of you. like it's very hard, if you notice, when you play against other warriors, to really stop the warrior doing damage outside of your like disarm and stun windows, which a lot of classes don't have on a regular basis. You can't spam disarms. And you can spam polys on them, but with a good healer and the rotation of these other things, you're not going to really be eating too much CC. So, what do I recommend you try and do while you're in your games? And how do I think you should play around this, right? Um, One big thing you need to do is look at a target. When they start to run or start to kite you, think about whether you need to stay on that target, right? There's a lot of times where you actually might have to stay on that target. Let's say no one in your team, except for you, has kick, and it's a boomkin, right? A boomkin with convoke. Then until your teammates have kick or a stop for the convoke, you probably need to just stay on the target and chase him a bit, and push him away, right? In games where you are pretty much safe and you're like let's say you're versing Shadow Priest, Warrior, right? If the Shadow Priest gets like runs completely far away, super far away from your team, you're pretty safe to just hit the Warrior. The Shadow Priest is running away, it's not a big deal to hit something else. And the biggest thing I think is really important, and what I see a lot of people get wrong, is when they're playing against Aflocks. This is the best example. I'm going to show two clips of that here. When you are playing against an Aflock, if he ports to Narnia and he leaves his healer behind, right? That is when you take advantage of that situation and you swap, right? Because now the Aflock's 40 yards away from you. He has to use and he's just used all his movement abilities to get away from you, right? Which means that he doesn't have an easy way to get back to you except to run to you, which wastes his time and like his uptime, right? His damage. So then the healer has to use cooldowns to get out of there. You can see this flow on effect here. So the main message I want to leave you with before we jump into the clips is that a big role of what you do as a warrior and your win condition in a lot of arena games is doing the most damage per second, right? Doing enormous amounts of damage to put the healer under pressure. When you're doing that much damage and you get a single fear, you get a single poly, stun, silence on the healer can't catch up easily and he's going to have to use cooldowns to top his teammates. And if he doesn't have those cooldowns, his teammates are going to have to use their personals and so on and so forth. You can see how you can slowly get to a win. I think at a certain stage, you will see that details between higher CR warriors and lower CR warriors is a lot more evident than you'd expect. High CR warriors are just pumping more damage. And when I play low CL or I play my monk with other warriors, I notice that a lot of the times they aren't able to produce the same numbers, even though they're versing similar teams with a similar toolkit. And that's generally based on uptime. So, um, I honestly think if you put this into practice in your threes and twos and you're not doing this, you notice you're tunneling a lot, you notice you're chasing and you feel sort of useless. If you just hit whoever's close to you and you just keep rotating like that, you will improve a lot of rating. You'll start to do massive damage and force a lot of pressure, and that counts for twos, threes, RBGs, like anything really, right? You should just be hitting something all game, even if it's a pet. right? You want to be pumping damage. So let's jump into the clips and we'll talk more about this. So the first clip we're looking at is against RM Pala, right? And I'm probably not going to play the entire game, but I want to show you the different times that we're switching classes, sorry, switching targets, and just deciding what to hit based on that. So for the opener, usually we want to tunnel the rogue, right? Because it's out, we can force a lot of cooldowns. As ret warrior, you can pump, right? I see the stun, I see the combust, I insta the trinket wall, right? The sack comes out from the ret as well. Because this rogue and pally, right? If you look, the rogue and mage are already running. I instantly charge the H-pal to start hitting him. Because the rogue's far away, the H-pal's got freedom. I stun the mage and I start to hit the mage now, right? I throw the spear down on the mage and we start pumping together on the mage, right? While the rogue was the original target, because he's 100% going to get the re, we don't really care about who the target is. We need to force damage and we need to force the rogue out, and the easiest way to force the rogue out is to force him to peel his teammates, right? So the rogue comes out here to block from the mage and the sack, which is just based on the fact that we are swapping the damage. You see the mage kites away, we start to hit the H-pal, right? We swap immediately to the next closest target. Now the rogue is on top of us, right? And we're considering maybe we should go the rogue again, right? So now I'm hitting the rogue because I can't really get into anything else right now. And evasion comes out. So instead of swapping, I commit the stun and try and put some more damage into him. If you can put damage into someone during someone's cooldowns, you are going to force huge amounts of pressure, right? So now we're hitting the mage. I'm trying to get to the mage. I'm very, very slowed. I use an ignore pain and I'm on top of him, pumping him because he's the closest target, right? There's not much thought about this overall. It's just you hit whoever's out and then people come out again. Here, I'm left pretty much on my own. I'm probably taking a lot of damage, so I'm hitting the rogue. I don't want to chase the mage around who has no cooldowns now. So neither of them can really play aggressive because we've gotten all their cooldowns in the first go, right? So now I'm trying to chase anyone, hit anyone I can. I throw the Stormbolt on the mage who instantly trinkets because they're on their getaway, right? They're trying to get out of there. And I'm just trying to get to the mage at this point, keep him in combat, right? So you see here, I'm chasing the mage, I'm looking at him, we eventually connect, we get the hamstring on him, the rogue comes out again, I miss a fear on the paladin unfortunately, but I spear the mage here, who's then forced to stay and stack on top of his on top of his rogue, which is not a good position for either of them because of this sweeping blade storm. They're running again, right? So here I charge the rogue because I think I've got Stormbolt and we can force a Trinket straight away. And I Stormbolt and he Trinkets immediately to run, right? So if you can chase and force a cooldown, then that's fine. But, generally you just want to stay on the most closest target. I see the Rogue's got an array and we've got this H-Pal's got put into a full poly. Thought stolen, right? So the rogue pops out again. I was gonna go the H power, but obviously the rogue's out again. So here I throw the disarm on the rogue. I jump onto the mage and I'm just pumping away at the mage. I stun the rogue on the duel, right? So he doesn't really get too much value out of the duel. I'm full HP. Just ignore painting, every second global as much as I can because it's an RMP and I'm the main target. And we connect here to the rogue, right? The rogue has no trinket now. He has no easy way to get out. We throw the spear. There's combust. I get PS'd and the sack from the ret. We're both connecting to the rogue, so we finish the rogue off, I think, in a couple seconds. This sack comes out, bubble sack. We just hit into the sack for a bit, and now we're looking at the pally, right? I want to slow both of them, right? Piercing how really good if you have two targets that are both running away, because usually you'll at least get one and be able to force pressure. There's the stun on the H-Pal, right? We see the H-Pal's pretty low, and because of the amount of pressure that we've given them the whole game, the H-Pal's run out of all his cooldowns, right? And even though the Rogue was the main kill target in the end, because of the way he was playing, we pretty much got cooldowns from their entire team just by hitting whoever was closer. So that's the first clip we're going to show you. Okay, we're looking at the next clip. This was a team that played really well. They pretty much farmed us all night. Our Ret Warrior, this is Shadowplay, and this is one of the wins we got on them. I don't want to pretend like we beat them every single time because, yeah, they played well. They did better than us. But this is one game where I think, cheesed out the win pretty early. I see the AF lock ports, right? So instead of chasing the Airflock, who has huge amounts of mobility and is now next to his gate, right? I swap immediately to the H-Pal, right? I stun the H-Pal and I get the spear down, and we cross CC, which immediately gets the bubble, which I shatter, right? And I'm staying on top of him, still pumping out damage because both the Shadow Priest and the Airflock are kind of too far away for me to hit, right? They're in a really awkward triangle position. And here, because the HPAL ran away, we start to hit the SP, right? The SP has PI, and if we can get something out of him, we're going to pump good damage, right? We get the kick onto the VT. Uh, Big note here: if you kick VT, they can't disperse, right? So we pump massive damage into him, make the Holy Pally, freak out a little bit, and have to start casting Flash of Lights, which isn't necessarily the most efficient thing for him to do. So we get back onto the pally, and I'm just smacking him a little bit, right? I get the stun on him, we get the mind games out, and there's the bop. I think the bop doesn't get dispelled because of the fear on the priest. So it's a little bit awkward here, and this is probably when we should have just been on the lock once we realize the bop can't be taken. I fear the SP just to stop some of the pressure. It was DR, so it probably wasn't very good. But here we're looking out for the spear. We get the spear down and we connect. The sharper comes out on this guy and we're just pumping damage away to him. He gets a full hodge on him and it's lights out for him. So if you see there, we did make some mistakes by chasing him a little bit too long, but ultimately it was whoever was closer. The Aflock sort of positioned in a weird spot that was hard for us to get to. And we swapped to the priest, we got his fade, we freaked him out a little bit, and then we freaked out the H-Pal, got his trinket. We should have swapped on the bop, but we didn't. So ultimately we end the game with a lot higher damage than we normally would have. Shadowplay is always going to out damage you because dots and Malefic Rupture just scale really, really well, right, with time. But we were able to push them pretty hard and clutch out the win there. So that's another game against Shadowplay. I've got a lot of questions about that. The main thing you should try and be doing, especially if you're playing a cleave, is just to swap onto the closest target and then generally try and collapse onto one and force some cooldowns. Okay, this is another clip from earlier in the season, which was, you can see the HP pools. I think people had about 205 eye level around then, a couple of weeks ago, I think about a month ago, right? Against the Spell Cleave, right? Spell Cleave with Destro Lock. I see one thing here is they use a lot of cooldown, so we just jump out. I throw the Venom mainly so we don't get micro CC'd and stuck somewhere, and just to bail out of there. And then originally our target was the Ellie, but now the Ellie and Destro both don't have cooldowns, so we're just sort of waiting to see what's going to happen next. The Ashen Hallow comes down, which is a cause for concern, and I see that the Ellie is close by, right? It is very close to us, but now I get the double fear on these two, and I stun before he can get this tremor down, right? So I'm just wailing away at him, getting as much uptime as possible. He uses wall, right? And here I get coiled. So we're staying on him because he's right in front of me, but I'm also thinking about potentially swapping to anyone else nearby. I see this Destro Warlock who's casting Chaos Pods, but we do get the Poly on him, which gets dispelled. And because this Ellie is standing on top of us, I just want to keep going the Ellie, right? This Hex is trying to come out, and I get the stun on him here as he's trying to run away, right? This is an example of pretty much having 100% uptime on a target, which leads to an immense amount of pressure off a single fear, right? There's no quick reaction you can do to that, and ultimately the game is locked and sealed there. So another game from earlier in the season against the Balanced Druid Shadow Priest Holy Pally. You'll see the uptime clips are very relevant when we are reversing a lot of these spell cleaves, right? And here I think I just forget to put Battle Shout on. Do I remember? Do we guess? I don't think I remember. Oh, that's awkward. All right. Um, and this is probably one where I probably should have swapped way more often, right? So the Bounce Druid sort of gets into bear form, he gets some big heals, and the sack comes out, right? We got a lot of cooldowns from him, but he has sack now, so probably should be looking at hitting the SP, who'd probably take a lot more damage in this go. The Void Torrent comes out on our priest, who is able to survive by the skin of his teeth. The Repentance comes out, which is polyed, right? And we unfortunately overlap Fear as well. And this this SP is kind of pumping this dam too. We're getting good pressure onto this Boomy, but still, this Aura Mastery is going to be pretty painful for us, right? The Bob comes out, which it gets spell stolen, so it's not all bad here. But it's kind of feeling like I'm hitting a wall, and this SP is kind of pushing closer and closer to my healer. It might be worth trying to get him out of there, right? I'm looking at both. I'm trying to think, okay, can I get a double spear here? Trying to slow both, and I miss my spear like an idiot, right? I missed the kick. No, I don't miss the kick on the Cyclone. I don't kick at all on this. And the Thorns get spell stolen. But again, SP probably a much better target at this stage, especially since I just missed my kick too. And he's pushing up on my healer. So here, should have absolutely switched to the SP. He's right on top of us right now. I get stunned here, and they set up a go onto the uh, priest, right? And I'm still hitting into this bear form. It's kind of annoying. We are putting a lot of pressure out, but it's just not enough to actually close out the game with the Holy Paladin and the S Priest kind of providing off heals along with frenzied regen, right? So we're topping damage at the moment, but imagine that damage onto cloth instead of the bear form, right? We keep pumping away here. I get knocked off. I use my charge, and the MC comes out too. And here I'm chasing when I should have just swapped to this SP again. I get the stun, so I do connect, so it's not all bad. And I get this very DR'd fear, which is awful, right? I lock the Cyclone here, and it's like we're still hitting into the sack. It's not really achieving anything, which is just letting this SP get closer and closer to my priest. They get some cross CC through that, and then my priest is lights out. Right? So you can see how this is an example of poor uptime. Uptime isn't just position. There was positions where I should have absolutely hit this priest, but it's also kind of realizing when the enemy team is using defensive cooldowns and the fact that you probably need to swap off if they're just spamming defensives, right? If he's completely like taking 50% less damage from you because he's in bear form, right? You probably should hit this priest who's going to take 100% of your damage. So a big thing to think about. All right, so this is the end of the video. Hopefully those clips were useful. I think uptime is going to be a massive thing that can help you increase rating. I'd love to hear how you're using it in the comments below. If you achieve a milestone and this has helped you, let us know. It's always awesome, and it's good motivation to keep making these. Um, One thing I would recommend is just to VOD, like record some of your games and think about uptime. Were you hitting a target most of the time? Were you hitting a target that had defensives up? Would it have been better to hit the other target? Could your second DPS connected way better if you were hitting the target? One thing to think about with Warrior, right, is we have crazy mobility, but a lot of the times we play with classes that might not have the same mobility. So while you might have uptime on one target, your second DPS is, running and chasing that target. So think about, is it better to collapse on the target closer or spread out and, even split DPS? Think about it like that, right? One big thing to note with a lot of these clips is it's very situational on the gameplay. So obviously don't necessarily take all the stuff I've said in the clips as things that would relate to you if you're versing a different comp or you're playing a different comp. Anyway, guys, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe. It really helps grow the channel. It really helps get us on the algorithm. If you, you know, want to promote this video on Reddit or Discord, it's much appreciated too. And finally, I think if you have any nice comments or nice words, things you want to say, questions to ask, put them in the comments below. That also very much helps the comments. Helps push the algorithm out and get this video to as many people as possible. Okay, guys, appreciate you all.